All right, let's talk some Gregory Rousseau. He was a guy who, when I was doing my draft evaluations, I had maybe the most trouble evaluating. I said, when I made my top 10 defensive lineman list, he didn't make the list, and I also said he could legitimately end up being the best guy on this list. The reason why I was so confused, and again, I don't deserve credit. If he's good, that counts as a miss by me, just to be clear. But the reason why is because you looked at his numbers, and his numbers were awesome, but then you watched all of his sacks, and none of them were him beating tackles. It was always him doing weird stuff with blitzing, getting coverage sacks, things of that nature. And so I was kind of just like, I don't know how to evaluate this guy. He's clearly long and fast, so that's helpful, but what else can he bring to the table? And I think I feel much better about him. And again, he didn't play last year either, so that's the other aspect of this. So the question I had was, how good was he going to be in the NFL? And I feel better about him after seeing what I saw in the preseason, which is a good thing if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. So we'll start off with this play. This was the one that you've probably seen before. This is the sack on Penei Sewell, although it's a bit more complex than just him beating him one-on-one. Although I also feel like, there's been kind of this debate over, does he deserve credit for it? Was this just the quarterback's fault? To me, this was a clear example of both things can be true at once. It can be the quarterback's fault, and it can be a good play by Rousseau beating Penei Sewell. Like, watch how right when this play starts. So you see Rousseau, he's long, and he has these big arms, and so he's able to get his left arm and kind of put it on Penei Sewell's right side of his body, and look at how off balance Sewell is. So yes, the quarterback is, already pretty far deep, and he's going to continue getting further deep. That is a mistake. However, watch Rousseau then reach out his left arm and help make the tackle right there and get the sack. That's a good play by Rousseau. It is. Yes, there was a little bit of help, but you know what? It's very rare that you're going to get a sack without any help. Typically, you're going to need some help by somebody else. Football is such a team sport. That's the way it works. To me, that's a clear, good play, and it goes to show, you can't teach having longer arms, and the fact that he has the arms he has really can be used to his advantage. Now, I would say on something like this, I've noticed his run defense is maybe a little bit lacking. Perhaps I have seen him get pushed around a little bit in the run defense, at least to this point in the preseason. So he's going up, one-on-one against, it's actually not Penei Sewell. It appears as though it's extra offensive lineman who is in the game here, though, not a tight end. But watch what's going to happen. Watch how Rousseau does kind of just get completely shoved out of the way right there, which I think is understandable. He is getting brought in to be sort of a disruptor, a pass rusher. He might not necessarily have the best run defense, at least not right away, and that is something that tends to take a little bit to develop. Although this play was a positive, so while he, had some negatives, he had some positives in the run defense game as well. So what's going to happen here is it's in the Chicago game. He's going up one-on-one against the right tackle right here, and his job is containment. He doesn't want to allow the halfback to be able to bounce things to the outside, get outside the numbers where obviously there's less players there. So that's what his job is. And so look how right when this play starts. So 73 for Chicago. He's kind of going with it and is going to try and push Rousseau further in that direction. So that's where the game is right here, right? Where for Rousseau, he just wants to be in position where if number 8 for Chicago, the halfback, decides to run things in his direction, which, spoiler alert, that is what he's going to do, Rousseau wants to be in position where he can still be in an area where he can then make the play. That is the goal right here, and watch what's going to happen. Watch how Rousseau is going to be able to shift over, and he was in position to make that play. 8 had to cut back towards the middle of the field, which is exactly what Rousseau wants to do. That was a good play by Rousseau. He did his job on that play. Again, this is why watching tape for defensive linemen is so important, because there's really no other way, I would say, to see how good a player is. I think you need to watch tape because basically the box score only says so much about a player. Now, there was this play, which I just feel like I have to bring up because it's hilarious to me. So the way this works is that this is going to be a play action to the offense's left, then the quarterback is going to roll out to his right. And this makes sense, right? You have a great athletic quarterback like Justin Fields. You want to have him roll out, except this is not Justin Fields, this is Andy Dalton. So it's still doing a rollout. They like to have their quarterbacks move regardless, but Andy Dalton, not exactly known for his athleticism. And Rousseau is the edge rusher on this play. Typically what happens is, as an edge rusher, you're going to at first be ready to play the run, and then when you realize that it's actually a quarterback rollout, you're going to have some room to, it's going to be a bit of a distance between you and the quarterback. Like, look, as you see, Rousseau does run over the middle, and then he's going to try and get over to Andy Dalton. So at this point, there's some room, right? Dalton can make this throw if he wants to. So this play worked out. It's not a bad play by Rousseau. He has to stop the run. That makes sense. Just so happened that this situation is what it is. The good news for Buffalo is nobody is open. So you would think Andy Dalton, either he throws the ball away right this second, or he could get sacked by Rousseau, or a third thing could happen. Watch how Andy Dalton is going to juke out Gregory Rousseau. Listen, when you have elite athlete Andy Dalton, he's going to juke you out sometimes. It is what it is. Clearly not a mistake by Rousseau. And listen, it's more of a funny play to me. He wasn't expecting Dalton to make that move, which I think is the big thing, similar to the, Brady juking out Urlacher thing. But regardless, still a funny play. This play was his other sack, also in that Chicago game, going one-on-one against a right tackle right here. And again, it's going to be his long arms that really come into play. When you have that reach, you're going to be able to initiate contact early. And typically that matters more for a tackle than for an edge rusher. As an edge rusher, typically, your goal is to get past him. So you got to use that long reach to your advantage. Just touching him isn't going to win you the battle alone. But watch how right when this play starts. So he reaches out his right arm, and he's going to grab that, shoulder pad area. And in doing this, he can then push forward. And that's what he's going to try and do, is it's the strength mixed with the reach. If you have that long reach, it would be ideal if you have a good bull rush, because if you do, that can result in sacks. And watch how he does have the strength to kind of push him over and make the sack, which this isn't something I saw too much in college. But again, we didn't see him play last year. He's an older, bigger guy now. So that's kind of why it was such a high-risk, high-reward draft pick. That's a really good play. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Rousseau. Again, he's a physical freak who looks like he might be able to get his talents to work at the NFL level, which would be super cool. So again, it's fun to see guys like him who are just one of a kind. He's a unicorn. I've compared him to like the Clowney of that's the best comp of the physical freakiness. Again, Clowney's not necessarily a huge sack guy, but he does a lot well. And maybe Rousseau could be a better version of that. Maybe he'll be a worse version of that. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's my thought on how Rousseau has played this preseason. Let me know, what do you think in the comments below? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.